Hi, everybody. My name is Niama Morys, and I'm an Associate Director for Precision Medicine at Proclinical. This interview series is focused on gaining insight and advice from life science leaders on their experience and journey into executive leadership. I'm very excited to interview Helen Cao today, who has a very steep career at various companies such as Qiagen, BD, and now Biosciences as Chief Operating Officer and Head of Innovation. Let's get into it. Hi, Helen. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me regarding your career into the C-suite. Shall we get started?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Excellent. Right. Then my first question for you is, you speak 4 languages fluently, been selected as top 40 under 40 in management, have been keeping yourself busy with continuously educating yourself, working with charities, and have quite an impressive career, and are also a mom of 2. My question is really simple. How did you do all of it, and what's your secret?
Secret sauce. Good question. I'm not sure there's such thing as a, secret. If there is such a secret, I'd like to know myself. I think there's probably a combination of things that play a role. One is, I reckon I'm quite a curious person. And I am interested in different things. I like to explore different things. And my mind doesn't like to be idle. So I like to be occupied, and I find different things to be occupied with. That's something that I've noticed, a long time ago. And secondly, I like to do things well. I don't like to do a little bit. I think everything I do, I try, I'm interested in do well. So I think this combination of the breadth and depth has certainly led to a lot of what I did and things I embarked on. And then there's also some context, right? I came to Germany from China. I'm born in China to Chinese immigrant parents who then moved to Germany. My father's an academic and came to Germany at a time when the country was quite closed. So I have 2 mother tongue because I lived 11 years in China, and then I moved to Germany where I went to school and basically grew up. And then I lived and studied, many years in the U.S. And also in France. So some of those language skills I also picked up along the way as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So my next question is, how did you make the jump from a management role into C-suite? And what skills did you have to learn to get where you are now?
Yeah, so I moved to a C-suite role about 1.5 years ago, and before that, I've been in life science, since more than decades. And before that, I was a head of a European Management Team for a large corporate, Becton Dickinson. It's a $1 billion business. Within the $20 billion, 75,000 person, blue chip company. And then I moved to a smaller company, which is a spin-off from Qiagen in the diagnostics field. And there I'm a C-level, as you say, I'm COO and also head of innovation. I would say what is different. So, I've been leading teams for many years, 10 years now. And I think one difference before in a large corporate, you have one function, or I had product management, innovation, marketing for a very large business. And when I went to the C-suite role in a PE, private equity-based smaller company, I have, as a CEO, a very broad role. So I have all the product-based innovation, marketing, but I'm also responsible for production side and quality, and regulatory affairs. So I think you see much more the interconnectedness of things, which I would say is probably also true as part of a C-suite. It's not enough to just know your function very, very well, but you need to see the bigger picture and how the different pieces come together. I think that's definitely a thing that is new and exciting. And the second is as communication. I think as a C-suite, and many people will say that the team, they look at you. So communication, whether you want to communicate or not, everything you do or say is seen through a certain lens that you represent management, you represent the company. So I think I've become more purposeful about how to use some of the signaling communication for culture building for things. And I still see sometimes people pick up something that it was not intentional, but then I realize it actually has an effect. So if that's the case, better use that. Yeah.
Okay. And did you prepare anything beforehand, before you decided to go into the C-suite, that you knew that you would have to step up your game? Or did you take any courses or anything that would make it easier in a way?
Not deliberate preparing in the sense, because I also changed company. I think the whole context is different. If I were in the same company, maybe it'd be easier to prepare. I think one thing I've heard again and again from others, that I admire, other leaders leading large organizations, is this communication piece that when you move up the ladder, before you may say something to your team and they know what you mean and it's fine. When you move up, more and more people see what you say, and they may not know the content, they may not know you, but they'll interpret something into it. So I think communication needs to become more purposeful, and it's also very powerful. You can send signals with what you do that you are not able to do before. I think this is something to be aware of and maybe prepare a bit as well. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. So obviously great leaders are always open to learn. Which leadership resources have you found most useful and why?
Yeah, so I'll cite this article that I've been using since I became a manager, more in 2012. So I've been using this for 10 years. It's an article from Harvard Business School in 2010. It's called "How Will You Measure Your Life?" It's from Clayton Christensen, a late HBS Harvard Business School professor, and he is known primarily for Innovator's Dilemma. So he is really, this sort of father of thought leader for that. But he also wrote an article based on a class he gave at the Harvard Business School. How do you apply business principles to manage your life? Actually, and I can really recommend it. There's a book, you can Google it. How will you measure your life? Head and Clayton Christensen, you will find it. And there, there's one aspect he talks about which helped him find meaning. Is he said he founded a company before he became an academic, and he had a team. And he will imagine in the morning he sees some of his employees, how they would come to work, and in one case they'll go home and feel diminished, defeated, bored, underutilized, and how this will be for their spouse or their children. In another case, they'll go home feeling inspired, feeling they did something for the world, confident, and how that will also have a ripple effect on their children and their spouse. And therefore, he says management is, if it's done well, and it's not easy to do well, it's a very noble, or he even said the most noble profession. And that really inspired me. I read it when very first time. I was very young. I was just turned 30, and I have this team, and I was thinking about, what does this really mean? I have now these people, they look at me and they're like, what do we do? And it helped me to understand the responsibility that there is, but also how much it's a tool to do something good, to contribute to the world. For me, this is very important. I'm in life science because I feel it's a meaningful as well as an interesting industry, probably among the most interesting and purposeful. But I also realize the purpose it's not only through the products or the service you offer as an organization, which it definitely is, but as a leader, manager of people, you can make an impact through little things sometimes you do day in and day out. That's amazing. And that really shaped me. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. What process do you go through when you make significant decisions?
So when it's a multi-step approach, and sometimes it doesn't go through all steps, but I'll tell you all 3 steps. So one is I'm quite analytical. I'm a scientist background, so I will write down what does it mean, scenarios, pros and cons. Then if it's really a significant decision of longer impact, I like to discuss and debate it with people that I know well, be it mentors, be it, my trusted circle of friends and family. And while I debate, I see their answers, I reflect on it, but also while talking to them, it sort of shapes my own thought as well. So I will do this type of ping pong for a bit. And I try to pick different people, right, that different viewpoints come across. And then in the end, it's sometimes narrowed down to two things. I also use intuition, gut feel for the final decision. Yeah.
Great. Thanks. That leads me to my next question. Why is vision important in leadership, and how do you communicate it in your team?
So vision is very important for a couple of reasons. It unites people, right? You have a bunch of people who are there together to do something, but day in, day out, I think it's very good to have something that unites people. It gives a sense of orientation. It's incredibly important for people to have that sense of orientation, even more so nowadays where everything changes so fast. It also, if it's a good vision, gives sense of purpose. And interestingly, I thought about this recently, it focuses people because good vision is very clear. It is not many things. It's sort of one thing, and this uniting, orienting, and focus and purpose is what is needed. And I don't know if you know Yuval Harari, this amazing historian. He wrote *Sapiens*, bestseller. He basically looks at how human being developed from the early age, and it's a history of mankind. And he has a TED Talk, and he talks about why is it the human being came to be so powerful, from apes, sitting somewhere in the woods, to beings that really shape the world, good or bad, but very powerful. And he says that actually one of the reasons is the storytelling. Humans are able to use storytelling, which will lead to cooperation of large group of people in very flexible ways. And animals don't do that. They either cooperate in small groups that they know each other, or they cooperate in a way like bees or ants that are preset. They cannot, today do this way, tomorrow do that way. And he said it's because of storytelling that really made human being where we are. And I think that's why we are drawn to vision, because vision is essentially a story, right? Essentially a story that leaders or jointly create, and we all, believe in at the best and move towards. And there's something inherent about human nature to want to have that. And I think that's why vision is so front and center in organizations, right? And then your second question about communicating the vision, it's important, and frequently, really frequently, and purposefully. Designing a communication is important. And obviously, if you really believe in it, people get it. You are the ambassador. So that, I think, it's the case. But it's difficult. It's one of the, I think, most difficult things, especially if you have organizations that are very large or scaling very fast, or both. Yeah.
Great, thank you. What fears did you have to overcome in order to become successful in your role?
Yeah. So, my current role, C-level role. So I think in some way I was confident coming to my role, but I would say what I needed to do, because I was focused on a set of function. I was always part of this product, product development, product management, marketing, innovation. I never had to be concerned about how these products are made. They are made. Somehow they arrive. I work with colleagues who make sure they are made at high quality. We're a regulated industry. But I never have to sort of think about what it really entails, other than, visiting the manufacturing site from time to time. And now I'm actually responsible for we have 3 different production plants. And that's a new functional expertise that I had to learn, and I learned. And I think I was very excited. It's one of the things I enjoyed the most, to learn these new things. But I think my fear was that I don't know what I don't know, right? If it's something completely new, if you don't know, you may miss something. I think that was a fear, if you will. But then, I later on realized we have a culture as a company. We encourage many of our teams to do things they've never done before, to try things. And I thought, wow, then I, as a leader, I can be open about that so that people see, well, everybody is doing new things. And ultimately, we're doing quite well in the production area. And by showing that openly embark on new areas is part of what leaders do, it then becomes part of company culture, and it exemplifies this notion of continuous learning, and also hopefully takes away some of the fear of others. Yeah.
Great. Thanks. What key advice would you give aspiring leaders then?
So I was thinking about this a bit. So I think, imagine when I became the first time a leader, meaning managing people, that, as I said, was 10 years ago. I think for me, I knew everybody was saying, leadership is great responsibility, and it is, and it's very important. And it's a great career step, right? And it is. I think what I didn't expect but found to be true is there's intrinsic reward in seeing people grow. I totally didn't expect that. I haven't actually heard anyone from my manager mentioning this before, so I was surprised by it. But it's one of the things I enjoy the most. I think there are different people, different, if you are somebody, first I think it's just good for people to know that being a leader brings tremendous reward, which goes beyond responsibility like career step. It is an intrinsic reward because you are helping people grow. You set them in a specific context. You put them in the right place. You coach them, and it's just to know that can be, really rewarding. It's good to know. It's not. Sometimes I feel leadership portrayed as something heavy, like a heavy burden, backpack you have to wear. I think it is not only that, right? At tough times it can be that, but there's a tremendous joy as well to do. And I also love recruiting new people, for example, to bring people in and then to show them what they can do for the organization and therefore for themselves. So that's probably one advice. Second advice is, when I first became a leader, I read a lot of things. I read books and I wrote the article. I looked for resources. I looked for management theories, and I did experiments on my team. I did tell them afterwards. I think that think about what type of leader you want to be. Make it a reflection. Make it something purposeful, and do it. I spent quite some time doing that, and I think that helped me. That helped to guide me and make a decision. This is what I think is important, and I think that is, that is really good. And I think it is somewhat personal, right? Another person may do it totally different than me, and I think it's important to find your own role there, style. Yeah.
Very insightful. Thank you. Our last guest, Reinhard Kleiner, who is a site leader at Letos, has given me the following question for you. How do you stay confident in difficult times?
Thank you, Reinhard. I think confident in difficult times, I was thinking, I think first a couple of us. One is, it's really important to get clarity, because sometimes in difficult times, it can also be overwhelming times. And then it's sometimes a cloud, right? And I think it's really important to be clear what is really the situation and what it is not, and what is really the question at hand. If you're trying to solve what is the question? Instead of an overarching, what should we do? Which is not a good question. It's, should we invest in this field or not? It's a much better question to really be clear about that. That's one. And once that is clear, I would say, often there are scenarios, there's ways to do that. If I still feel, overwhelmed or where to go, there's two pieces that I do. One is just this famous one step after the other. If you clear what it needs to be done, but there's always uncertainty in the world, the direction, things. If you go into the right direction, things will take shape. One step after the other, it will unfold, even though you don't know yet. And the second is I like to exchange thoughts with others, either from, others in the same industry, because if there's something macroeconomic, it doesn't only affect your company, it actually affects others. And sometimes you don't know if it's something affecting only your company or others, and the solution will be a different one. And I like to actually exchange with others about the same thing. Obviously, not disclosing what needs not be, but just to see if are they sailing through the same things. And then it's also good to talk to people from other industries or other fields, or some people who just have different more experience, so that they can tell you, they can put things into perspective. I think that's other people who've gone through other difficult times or even more difficult times, right? They are quite good to have that exchange. Yeah. So
Right.
that's what I try to do. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for doing the interview with me, and really seriously appreciate it.
Sure.
And that leads me to my very last question.
Yes.
As part of our series, we will be interviewing other inspiring leaders in the life science industry. What would be your questions to them?
Yeah, very good. I get one. I get to ask one as well. Very good. What I'm actually interested in is, so there's probably two questions, and you're welcome to choose. One is, what is like one important breakthrough within the life science industry, you're excited about? I think that would be a good question that I'm interested in as a listener. Second one is, what other industries do you think life science can learn from? I'm very interested in that, and I have some answer, but I think there must be many more answers, since I'm quite committed to this industry. But what are some other industries that life science can learn from, and conversely, which industries can learn from life science, for example? That would be also interesting to know.
Great
So
questions.
you can choose.
Excellent. Oh, I give them all. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. I will. Yeah, I'd be very interested to see what the next person has to say about them.